Today I'm going to talk about how I think these biomechanics are pretty much going to eradicate neurological disease, which is going to sound like it's crazy, right? And the science people out there are going to blow me off and tell me that I'm just stupid, which is fine. I can take that. But I'm going to explain the logic as to why I think that. I watch Harry Stebbings, who is a VC who has got his own YouTube podcast, and he brings on a lot of entrepreneurs, and he's got this CEO of Eventbrite, Kevin Hartz, who's pretty well known. He's been around for a while. And Kevin was talking about his daughter who has a eating disorder, right? And then they talk about how it's partially neurological, and they get on the subject of neurological diseases. And Kevin's talking about how he's testing all these, like, the latest, medicines and things and treatments and all this high-tech stuff to treat his daughter. And how, some of these new technologies were emerging to help neurological disease patients. And I was just like shaking my head. I'm like, no, like, you're losing the forest from the trees, right? So what are neurological disorders, right? So there's many. The medicine community likes to distinguish them. I think a lot of them like overlap in certain things, but the popular ones are things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, dystonias of various sorts. See, these are the ones I'm most familiar with. There's a lot more. It's like a long tail, but I'm less familiar, so I won't talk about those. Basically, these are disorders that affect the nervous system. So this is things like your brain, your spinal cord, the nerves throughout the body. And if you look at the numbers, the cases of neurological disease, especially in America, is just rocketing up. It looks like this, almost like exponential curve. And when you see that, for me, you got to just wipe out genetics, right? Like, we have descended from our ancestors for many generations. There's absolutely no reason why genetics should not just take off now, right? So a lot of people point to environmental stuff and how our lifestyles change, and I more or less think that that's all BS. I think that this neurological issues and diseases are root caused in these biomechanics, and I'm going to explain why. But basically, I talk about the skull deflating because the flattening of the curve of Spee, and basically that is the soft tissue, so kind of the skin, the fascia, whatnot, deflating, crushing the skull, crushing the brain, twisting the jaw, twisting the neck, and then having that a descending effect. And all this has a very bad impact on your brain, your spinal cord, and this is what causes neurological disease and neurological symptoms, right? And you can look at folks like Dr. Youngjin Lee, Dr. Brennan Stack, who have been treating neurological diseases like Parkinson's for a long time successfully with dental splints. And for me, like, a rubber appliance is just a faster way than a dental splint, because the dental splint that Brennan Stack was using was a flat plane splint, and I was comparing a flat plane splint against a rubber guard for many years, and I generally concluded that a rubber guard is much faster, but they essentially do the same thing. Then I want to quickly recap the story about an old friend, Marcello. We met probably around early 2015. His story was that he was a very healthy guy running marathons and stuff. He was in his late 40s. And then a dentist said that he had some interference on his teeth, on his dental contacts, and he kind of drilled a number of teeth, more or less flattened them. And very quickly, Marcello developed cervical dystonia, which is a neurological disorder where you're kind of like, your head's in a spasm, and it infects, like, you basically, it's very hard to carry on a normal life. Like, he was devastated from that. It impacted his family, his career, everything. And essentially it was triggered very rapidly from a dentist drilling his back teeth. And when I thought about his story, I was like, wow, I think that is what happened to me, more or less. I didn't go to as an extreme a level as him in 2014, but essentially a Vietnamese dentist had drilled my back teeth and flattened them. And it was after that I started having massive issues and couldn't retain information in mid-2014. And just to follow up on Marcello's story, like, he was learning a lot of this stuff that I was in 15, 16, 17, 18, and he's completely recovered and living a normal life. He's now in his mid-50s, looks great, and a lot of the core ideas of biomechanics, I took some of them from Marcello, so I want to make sure I give that credit. There are things about the soft tissue that I came up with on my own, but certain things I definitely leveraged Marcello, and he was a very smart guy. I'm pretty confident that one day they're going to figure out that neurological disease is root cause in basically physics and these biomechanics. If you accept that might be the case, then you'll accept that we will never get very far with chemicals and pills and surgeries, right? Because, it's like a structural foundation to a building. being damaged and then trying to fix it by painting the walls. It's just not going to happen. Also, I think one thing to observe, and I've observed this for a long time, is like when you observe people with very good necks, spines, these are people like professional athletes, models. They almost never get neurological diseases, right? Like I can't remember a single case where I say, wow, that person's got a very damaged, that person's got a great neck, great spine, great everything, great skull, and they have a neurological disease, right? So when you pay attention to this for a very long time, you're like, wow, like this seems like it's more than just a simple correlation, right? If all the people that have neurological diseases often have something going on with their neck and their skull or their spine, like it seems like there might be something structural involved because the correlation is so tight. So last thing I just wanted to say to end the video is that if you have a neurological disease and you want to try wearing a rubber appliance like the Revive, I would love to work with you and see if we can help you, because I think that this can help you. Thanks.